Hi everyone, John here with Fountain Pen Love, and today I want to give you a quick rundown of the Apica CD Notebooks. Now these are not the premium notebooks, these are the regular ones, but they're still fantastic. So let's take a look at them. Now these notebooks come in a variety of sizes. We have A4, A5, A6, A7, and B5. Now all these different notebooks come in different colors as well. Now these notebooks do only come in lined, so if you want something besides that, you'll need to look somewhere else. A few features of these notebooks: they do come with a stitched binding, so that makes them much more durable, but they still don't necessarily open and lay flat super easily. They're gonna take a little encouragement in order to get them to lay flat, but they will. They're much better than a stapled binding. They also have a flexible cover with a nice little attractive decoration on them. They look really similar to the Tsubame notebooks that I did a video on a while back. I don't know which one inspired the other, but they both seem to have gained inspiration from each other. They're also really inexpensive. For an A5 notebook like this, you're looking at an average of about 10 cents per sheet. So pretty inexpensive notebooks, similar to Campus, to Tsubame's, to a lot of these other Japanese student notebooks. They're not extremely big notebooks, so they're really low profile. Average, these are 28 sheet notebooks, so that's what, 56 pages. The larger ones you can get up to 50 sheets, and so they're gonna be twice as big, a little bit thicker, but still pretty small notebooks overall. So let's talk about the paper. The paper comes in two different weights, and I'm gonna talk about this more at the end of the video, but the two different weights, there's a 70 GSM and there's an 81.4 GSM. Either way, regardless of which paper weight it is, the color is just a really light off-white. I wouldn't call it ivory, but it's definitely not a pure bright white paper. The lines on the paper are a light gray, so they're not super intrusive. They're pretty easy to write around. They're not super dark. Now some of the different notebook types have like a margin at the top. So this one has a date and page number that you can add some information there. It also has strong borders that are in a dark blue that give you this top and bottom margin, but other notebooks don't. They just have a regular margin at the top and bottom without the dark blue borders. I've never quite figured out the difference. It seems to be different notebooks have a different kind of margin style, so you might pay attention to that when you're buying your notebook, depending on your preference. The paper does have a nice smooth feel. It does offer a little bit of feedback, but nothing like a Midori or anything like that. So it's a pretty smooth writing experience. It's also really good paper. It handles fountain pens really well. But while we're talking about the paper and the writing experience, I want to go into detail about something that I just learned a few weeks ago. And I find it really surprising that either this isn't more well known or that it's not published anywhere on the notebooks, on any websites that I could find, on retailer information. I was contacted by Apica Japan. They reached out to me and said, hey, we read some of your reviews, we really enjoyed them, we're flattered that you like our paper, but here's some information that you might not have known. Apparently, the A5 notebooks and the B5 notebooks are made with completely different paper. Now the A5 notebooks, the same paper is found in the A6, the A7, the B5 notebooks share the same paper type with their A4 notebooks. So what's the difference between the two? The B5 uses the 81.4 GSM. And if you look on the back of this, it actually does say 81.4 GSM. On the back of the A5, it doesn't say anything. It doesn't show the paper weight. And this is a 70 GSM paper. It's really hard to tell the difference when you feel the two, but writing on them, it's a really big difference that you'll experience. Now the funny thing is, everywhere that I've seen listed on all the different websites, whether it's JetPens, whether it's Yosica, whether it's Van Ness, they all say the paper for the A5 and the B5 is the 81.4 GSM, because that's really the only published paper weight on these notebooks, and it's on the B5 notebooks. The funny thing is though, it's not the same paper. So it's not the same paper weight and it's not the same paper quality, but no one seems to know this, and I don't understand why this isn't something that Apica publishes. Now they did reach out to me, and in the email they specifically said, this is what we need to improve on, but we use different paper for the B5 and A5 sizes of Apica CD notebooks. Maybe they do plan to one day use the same paper in both notebooks, but for now it's still separate. Another thing that I found interesting was in the samples they sent me, the paper is referred to as wood-free paper. And so I emailed back and said, hey, if this isn't made of wood, what is it? Is it bamboo? Is it sugarcane? Apparently wood-free is an industry term that doesn't mean the paper doesn't have wood in it, but it does mean that it's free of mechanical pulp. So it basically helps the paper be more archival, lower acids, it makes sure that it doesn't yellow or degrade over time. This is not an Apica thing, it's an industry thing. So even though the paper is considered or called wood-free, it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have wood in it. It just means it doesn't have the mechanical pulp in it that can lead to a higher acid content and yellowing and degradation over time. So let's do a quick test. I want to kind of just do a hands-on first experience with the two different paper types. I've got the CD11, which is the A5 notebook here. This has the 70 GSM paper in it, even though it's not advertised anywhere that it's 70 GSM. That is actually the paper that is found in the A5 notebooks. And I've got a variety of pens here. This Pelican is filled with KWZ Honey, and that's a nice shading ink. So I'm gonna write shading on here. And yeah, this is nice and smooth. It's really enjoyable to write on. This is the Apica paper that I've always known because I always buy the A5 size, but it's really nice paper. It's not anything that's inferior. It's definitely got a great feel to it. Let's use this TWSBI. This is just, I think, I don't really remember what blue ink this is, but it's, you know, it's a nice, I think it's an Urban maybe. And yeah, again, broad nib. That previous nib was a custom grind and it can be a little sharper sometimes. This is just a broad, really nice to write with, and yeah, good performance overall. And finally, let's try this out. This is a titanium nib with a little bit of spring to it, and the overall feel can be a little different than these other two. This is also a high sheening ink. This is the sheening ink that I use in my paper tests, so it'll be a good challenge for this paper to see how it does with both sheen and bleed through or feathering. All right, overall that was a good writing experience. This is fantastic paper. It's really nice and easy to use, but now I want to switch over to this B5, to their higher quality paper, and see how it feels. So right off the bat, this paper does feel smoother. It feels like it's a higher quality paper than the 70 GSM. I don't think it necessarily feels a lot thicker, but the texture of the paper is a lot smoother, just to the touch. So let's try writing on it. Yeah, it feels really nice. So yeah, I mean, this paper is really nice and smooth to write on. The Apica 70 GSM in the A5 notebook is really smooth, but this is a lot smoother. I like this paper a lot. I didn't realize there was a difference, but it's a pretty big difference, I would say. All right, so comparing the two writing samples, the A5 paper, the 70 GSM, looks really good. We have pretty good shading. We have some sheen that's showing up. I don't see any feathering as far as bleed through goes. I don't see any bleed through. Ghosting is a little high, but it doesn't look too bad at all. Dry time is also pretty good. On the B5 paper, the shading is definitely a little more pronounced, a little more intense. It's almost like it's more high contrast. So I definitely think the ink looks better in all examples on the B5 paper, the 81.4 GSM, compared to the A5, the 70 GSM. Sheen, there might be a tiny bit more sheen on the 70 versus the 81.4, so the A5 might have a bit more sheen than the B5, but it's a toss-up. There's not a huge difference there. Dry time looks to be about the same. As far as ghosting goes, I would say there's probably a little bit less ghosting, which is probably to be expected since it's a slightly thicker paper. Also, I don't see any type of feathering, any type of bleed through, anything like that. So as far as performance goes, they're both pretty similar. I will say though, I think this B5 paper is a better paper. It's more enjoyable to write on. It has slightly better, the ink just looks a bit better on it. And so if I had to choose between the two, I would definitely choose the 81.4, I would choose this B5 paper. If it came in the A4 or A5, that would be fantastic. So when it's all said and done, what does this mean? Should you go and purchase the B5 notebooks just because they have slightly better paper? Not necessarily. I wouldn't suggest you buy them if you prefer an A5 size because the paper is really pretty comparable. I don't think it's worth the change in size just to have slightly better paper. If you love A5, stick with the A5. You're not really missing out on much. But if you're agnostic to the size, or maybe you cut the notebooks up and use the paper for other things, give the B5 a try. I think it is really good paper. I think it handles ink really well. It's gonna make your writing, or at least the inks coming out of your pens, look fantastic. And it's a nice little change of pace. So if you've always used the Apica notebooks and you've always used A5 or A6 or something like that, and you want to try a different paper, different experience, give the B6 a try. You probably will not be disappointed.